I know that she's in a safer place now, and the angels will be with her.
The school is expected to open at the end of this week for teachers. It's still not clear when the students will return. John, back to you.
Steve Harrigan in Fort Lauderdale, Florida for us tonight. Steve, thanks so much.
Okay, so that's the Florida shooting in 2018, and just one day after that Florida shooting, the foster caregivers of Cruz, the woman who cared for the alleged shooter, and his brother reportedly filed court papers seeking to control his inheritance, which could total up to $800,000. Roxanne Deschamps, also had Zachary Cruz, the brother of shooting suspect Nicholas Cruz, involuntarily committed to a mental health facility shortly after the massacre. The New York Post reported, citing a family source. Deschamps, a longtime family friend of the Cruz brothers, began looking after them after their adopted mother, Linda, died of pneumonia in November. Her court filings indicate she wants to administer Linda's estate, which could make her responsible for distributing the proceeds of her life insurance policy and settling her debts. Okay, I think that there could possibly be a pattern here regarding some of these shooters. That, people might want to look into. Have they been in the foster care system? Are they victims of perhaps grooming, mind control, sex abuse, what have you? I'm just throwing it out there. This is obviously my personal opinion, right? I posted a article that I pieced together. Some of it was, granted, one article was from a conservative news site, but a lot of times they're a lot more reliable and factual and not so biased. But this current shooter identified as Antifa, apparently, and he was wearing satanic patches. And, this is an ongoing theme. And the Betts, 24, has been identified as the gunman in the shooting at a bar in Dayton, Ohio, that left 9 dead and several wounded. His patch on his shirt shows he's a Satanist and an atheist. Atheism, which in itself denotes that God exists, because we wouldn't need atheism if God didn't exist, right? So, I don't think we have a gun problem. I think we have a God problem in our society. And I want to point something out really important, because Kamala Harris is running for office. And she developed, I think it was back in 2015, she developed the Children's Bureau of Investigation, the BCJ, which has a broad jurisdiction under state and federal law to investigate and enforce legal rights of children. According to the Office of the Attorney General, in the 4 years since its creation, the Bureau has launched a number of investigations into county child welfare and probation departments, school districts, private schools. Under this agency's watch, since 2015, child trafficking and children trafficked out of Child Protective Services has increased from 60% to 85%, the Times reports. And I'm going to link in the comments a link to an LA Times story. So Kamala Harris, the presidential candidate who wants to take away your private insurance and has a lot of other things she wants to take away from you, such as your guns in the wake of 2 awful mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton. She's calling for gun control on Twitter. Okay, and this is the conservative news site, The American Thinker. Just like one day after the shooting, I mean, she's pandering politically, and I just think, this whole race issue is kind of a deflection and to keep everybody distracted and fighting about race and racism. And meanwhile, we have these children in foster care that are being abused. God knows what else these kids are having to endure. And, I think if we look into the background of some of these shooters, that they're not just white nationalist or supremacist, that in fact they might have a lot of monetary gain by setting up these kids as patsies. So this is just my opinion. I encourage everybody to do your own research. But this morning I posted, like I said, the article in Routers regarding the gun smuggling issue under the Obama administration. So I just, want people to research some of this and look into it. And, I really feel like we have these criminals in Congress, and they're racist against human beings. They're contriving poverty, and they're cultivating this gang mentality, or these, people that pretty much lie to put them in, boxes and not look at individual situations. And I want to talk about the liars and slanderers and the targeters a little bit that aren't living in their truth. I'm going to close out the show. I'm going to close out the show with a video, because it's an issue in my life. I'm surrounded by a pack of hyenas because they don't like my observations or what I have to say. So I'm constantly having to fact check and post links and really, I'm just saying, folks, don't take my research for face value. Do your own research and look into some of these things, and it paints a different picture. So I'm going to close out the show with Infinite Waters, Diving Deep. Great guy on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel. Check it out. And thanks for tuning in. This has been another episode of Porthole to Justice, the window to the truth.
At least it came with a few toys like a Happy Meal. That's what Kanye West said on stage. And I remember hearing that, Deep Divers. And I'm like, wait a minute. I used to actually eat Happy Meals growing up as a child, eating fast food and all of that junk. And I remember those toys. They were terrible. Like, so terrible. Thank goodness I'm over that.